This is an objective look at free speech concepts related to events over the past couple weeks. Before you even start watching this video, if you're going to get any benefit at all, you have to do one key thing, and that's put aside whatever feelings you have about this concept based on your particular beliefs right now. If you're going to get emotional to the point where you're not capable of calm reasoning, then this isn't going to even make any sense. It'll just be a waste of your time. First, what do we mean when we talk about freedom of speech in America? The First Amendment, which is our foundation of freedom of speech, says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So in the very simplest of terms, what we're saying is that the government cannot prevent its citizens from speaking or writing their mind. For a less recent, more neutral event from my childhood back in the Stone Ages, let's talk about how the parental advisory sticker started on music, cassettes, and CDs. By 1985, debates had become more common on the content in the lyrics of the modern musical groups. Parents didn't really care what was on some cassette tape or CD by somebody that they would never listen to. However, when do people get upset? When there's risk that their impressionable children might get impacted by them. So now suddenly, what if my kid hears the lyrics and that kid doesn't have the experience in the world or the wisdom to really understand what the lyrics mean, what the intent is, why it might be right or wrong, or to resist some kind of negative impact from hearing those lyrics. Protective parents were pointing out adult, dicey themes in the lyrics, such as sex, drugs, booze, foul language, suicide, and Satanism. And yes, that's right, parents were actually, unfortunately, having teen suicides in their household, and they were blaming the lyrics of heavy metal music for it. Later that year, Dee Snider, the lead singer of Twisted Sister, went before Congress, and despite him looking like a typical rock star with the long hair and the shades and kind of grungy looking, he delivered a very well-spoken and thought-out position from himself as one of the artists. The result was a parental advisory sticker that went on cassettes, CDs, whatever the product may be, that basically let the parent know this media product may contain lyrics that may not be suitable for young kids. Same as a rated R rating for a movie. This warning label avoided actual censorship, which could have been considered First Amendment infringement. Now, was the First Amendment threatened with this warning label? I would say no. No government entity was telling the artists that they could not make the music they wanted to make or what they could and couldn't say. All it means is they're going to have to put a sticker on it if their music contains certain content, and that sticker may affect parents who would see it and say, hey, I don't want my kid listening to this, therefore I'm not going to let them buy that music product. Now, musicians had the choice. Again, no government agency was telling them they couldn't say certain things, but they could make a business decision to say, I'm going to say what I want, and I'm going to have that sticker on there, and I might lose some sales, or I'm going to keep clean and avoid the sticker, or with Skid Row's Slave to the Grind was kind of the first one I remember that they had two versions of the album. You had the clean one and the dirty album. And the dirty one actually had a really good song on it that the other one did not, but it had the little warning sticker on it. You can also look at other rights as having rules and consequences. For example, here in Texas, the Second Amendment, of course, allows most people out there to carry a firearm if they would like. Now, if they can't carry that firearm in a courthouse, is that an infringement on their Second Amendment rights? Most would argue no, it's just a rule that they have to follow. So again, they have the choice. They could carry that firearm in the courthouse, but if they get caught, they are risking legal consequences. However, this might bring up a question of how many rules about where you can and can't carry and under what conditions do we have to put up with before it does become infringing on the Second Amendment rights. So there is this gray area of rules that you still have the right to do something, but maybe there's some responsibilities that come with those rights. Now, hopefully these two examples helped you kind of clear your mind of everything that's been going on and kind of get ready for this as we dive into more recent examples, but maybe helps get you in the mindset of looking at things for the black and white facts and really thinking about what the law is and how does this event impact that. Charlie Kirk was recently shot and killed at an event in Utah. It was not self-defense. It was not accidental. It was premeditated murder. At the very elementary level, the killer should be tried and prosecuted for that crime. Based on just those facts, what does this really have to do with the First Amendment? Well, we get to that when we start talking about the why he got shot. Now, this is the area where we really have to start putting our feelings aside, our beliefs aside, and just look at the black and white. At the time he was shot, Charlie was doing what he did. He was visiting a college campus where students had the ability to voluntarily come and attend, and if they wanted to, they could debate him publicly, where he would speak calmly, and he was basing his discussions on his beliefs of political beliefs, societal, religious, with these other voters. The high-level concern for a lot of people is that even though the government wasn't preventing Charlie from speaking his beliefs, because that would be infringement of freedom of speech, he had that freedom, but are we now at a point in our society where somebody like him is able to go out there and speak his mind, but in doing so, he might be shot by someone else who disagrees with his beliefs? And this is a scary thought. The extreme polarization of the citizens in our country now has gotten so divided that somebody will actually take action to shoot and kill another person, another citizen, simply for having different beliefs than them. Free speech has always been a foundation for this country, and the Pilgrims settled here for religious freedom. So everything about this goes against the fundamentals of how our country began. We may not like it when someone is vocal about having different beliefs than what our beliefs are. But we also have to know that we don't want the government censoring those thoughts or those words, because the minute we allow the government to decide whether that individual should be censored, the next step could be them censoring us. And that basically would be the end of the First Amendment. So we don't want that. Instead, we put some level of faith, right or wrong, in the public to be able to hear or read those words and be intelligent and reasonable enough to assess those words and be able to say, is this right? Is this wrong? Is this just a difference in opinion? And it was clearly not followed in this case by the action that was taken. Following Charlie's death, some people were going online publicly celebrating this event. Again, ignoring whatever political or sociological beliefs you have, at the very basic level, what these people were expressing is happiness over the fact that this young father and husband was ended simply because he was having discussions with other people and may have had a difference in beliefs than some of them. While most decent human beings would say this is atrocious behavior, those individuals have the freedom of speech, same as Charlie did, same as we all did. The twist in what happened is that these people celebrating his death started losing their jobs. So now you have these individuals, they have a job, they go online, they're celebrating his death, and the employer finds out, the employer lets them go for it. One of the most notable of these was, of course, the Jimmy Kimmel example, where his words weren't directly celebrating the death, but more in the words he used and around the potential facts of the event and Charlie's supporters. Now, the claim from these people is, hey, what about my freedom of speech? I just had my rights infringed upon here by losing my job over what I said. Again, no government entity was threatening the freedom of speech for Charlie or for the people that lost their jobs, including Jimmy Kimmel. And it's sometimes hard to look at just the base facts because emotionally we all know that it is a whole lot worse to lose your life over expressing your freedom of speech than your job. But let's keep it factual. So who really threatened the freedom of speech if it wasn't the government? Well, in Charlie's case, it was his assassin. Easy enough. With the people that lost their job, it wasn't the government, it was their employers. Employers are businesses which we all know have one single priority, and that's money. It's about how much money they can make and minimizing the risk to that money. Now, in Texas and a lot of other states, we are at-will states. And basically that means that we can be fired at any time from our employers. Now, even if legally they're not required to have a good reason to fire somebody, generally employers are going to have a reason to let somebody go, because if you have a good employee, why would you lose them? Now, if you have a job and you go on your social media and you start posting lies about your company, well, you can get fired. And there could also be legal ramifications if you've been lying about it. Even if you go on social media and you say true things about the employer that may not be favorable in public light, they can fire you for that too. If you post pictures on social media of yourself at a bar or party where you are engaging in drugs, excessive drinking, promiscuity, whatever behaviors, an employer can very easily look at it and say, oh, that doesn't reflect our core values as a company, we're going to let you go. And we've all probably heard the statement of, you always represent the company whether you're in the office or you're out and about in what you do. So for the people that posted themselves celebrating the death of this young family man, I'm not really surprised that employers would look at that and say, this does not reflect our company values and we're going to let you go. In Jimmy Kimmel's case, even if it's not a value thing, when you're working for a big network, money is extremely important. So, they probably viewed it as, hey, this is a risk. We're going to get backlash from this. Somehow this is going to impact our bottom line, and that's why we're going to get rid of him. It's the same as the individuals on Instagram, just at a much higher level scale. In all of these cases, they all had the freedom of speech. There were just consequences when they spoke their mind. Again, Charlie paid the ultimate price for his, the others lost their job, but everyone had consequences. What if we take it one step further in the free speech aspect? So the people that did lose their jobs for celebrating his death, what about the people that potentially, I don't know if they did, but what about the people that may have saw that and reported those individuals to their employer? Well, those individuals also had the freedom of speech. They were able to call the employer if they did and say, hey, I saw this person's social media post, I don't approve. Maybe they threatened to take their business elsewhere, which with businesses, because they're so money driven, economic pressure is one of the few tools that we have as consumers to affect change sometimes. So if you don't like the Sydney Sweeney ads, then you don't have to shop at American Eagle anymore. If you don't like the new Cracker Barrel logo, you don't have to eat at that restaurant anymore. What about the people that said a lot of negative things about Charlie? Did those negative comments result in his death by inciting violence or hatred toward him? Possibly, but objectively, those people have the freedom of speech as well. So what do you do with that? With freedom comes responsibility, and it's never free. I know there are a lot of emotions everyone has over these past couple weeks about all these events, and I'm in no way saying that how you feel is wrong or bad or anything. All I'm trying to point out here is that it's important to be able to pull back on those emotions, to be able to look at any situation objectively and say, what's really going on here? What are the facts? That's going to help ground us. I think it also puts everybody on a level field, no matter what we feel or what our opinions or beliefs might be. And that's important for us to have open dialogue and discussions about what's going on, especially when we get into very serious things being thrown around like threatening First Amendment rights. And on that note, I'd encourage anyone to feel free to drop your thoughts below. I don't care what your belief is. My basic rule is the only comments I'm going to block are if somebody's just being a flat out dick or disrespectful or, nasty in any kind of way. As long as you're being calm, rational, you're free to speak your mind. As long as it's done in the right way, then I'll go ahead and approve the comments. But again, this is how we share ideas, but it's important to be able to look at the facts and have some kind of a grounding as a starting point. And if I do block your comment, nobody's infringing on your freedom of speech because the government's not doing it. I am, because it's my channel and you're a guest on my page. If you haven't done so, please click the link below to subscribe, click the little bell for notifications, and let's live for today.